I'm suffering right now. I feel guilty. I feel shameful. I'm regretting this. I'm blaming myself. I'm blaming them. Take a step back. I'm here on planet Earth, having this human experience. I'm a soul in physical form. I've come here because the only way for me to learn the lessons that I needed to learn as a soul, I needed to come to this place, Earth. I needed to materialize into a physical body. And it's through that physical material experience that I am learning about pain and suffering in a way that I couldn't have understood it as a soul just floating around in the ether. Because of that, I'm here to experience pain and suffering so that I can love myself through it all. Welcome to the Weekly Transit, your guide to understanding the current planetary and astral alignments. Together, we'll explore how to harness these cosmic frequencies, empowering you to reach your highest potential as you navigate the days ahead. I'm your host, Scott Tajarian. Welcome to the Weekly Transit, your weekly channel for learning the language of astrology for the purpose of understanding the planetary and astral alignments and how to work with these powerful frequencies to your benefit. I'm your host, Scott Tajarian. This is the week of January 6th to the 12th. The theme this week is responsible thoughts, as we highlight several transits, including Mercury's transit into Capricorn, the North Node's retrograde transit into Pisces, and Mars's retrograde transit into Cancer. We're also going to touch on some pop culture topics. Had a lot of fun last week. If you missed it, you can listen into last week's episode to hear my astrological reflection on the cosmic synastry between Blake Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds, as well as the current astrological frequencies and how they align with her astrological code with regards to her lawsuit, her sexual harassment lawsuit against her, the director and co-star of her latest film, It Ends With Us, Justin Baldoni. So that's last week's episode. This week's episode, Megan Fox has entered my field. And so I've got a lot to say about Megan Fox and her partner, Machine Gun Kelly, everything that's going on in there. Astrological codes with the current transits. It is fascinating. So if you enjoy the content that you are receiving here from this podcast, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, liking our videos, leaving a comment or a question on whatever platform you are listening or viewing this podcast on, so you can rate and review us. Maybe you like the sound of my voice. Maybe you find it soothing. I've been told that I have a very soothing, calming voice, and I'm here to help ground you, help you gain an understanding, a deeper understanding about who you are, where you are, what you're here to do, how to navigate these cosmic frequencies. If what we're sharing on the podcast is benefiting you and you feel so inspired, you can leave a monetary donation through Spotify or Dropbox. The links to do so are in the show notes. Regardless, we truly appreciate your engagement because it helps us tailor our content to your interests and grow our community by reaching new listeners. So thank you to everyone who's reaching out with a comment or a question, whether it's on Spotify or YouTube, or you're reaching out to me on Instagram or emailing me, scott@theweeklytransit.com. I'm always happy to hear from you, especially when you are sharing something that is positive with me. I love to hear how the podcast is helping you. I'm here to help guide you and support you. Now, if you're curious to know how any of the following transits that we're going to be discussing here on this episode are affecting you directly, or how to work with the cosmic energy to navigate your way successfully, or if you're looking for deeper clarity on who you are, why you're here, what you're here to do, contact me for a reading at theweeklytransit.com. This next week, we're going to continue with our interview series for the Weekly Transit. Our next guest is going to be Ricky King, an astrologer from Soul Path Astrology, somebody who I've personally mentored. She is an amazing woman, a wealth of knowledge and experience in life, and she is very open and vulnerable in sharing her story, her incredibly interesting story, and how she came to astrology and became an astrologer. So I'm really excited to share our conversation with you, which will be dropping next Tuesday, January 7th, or this coming Tuesday. It's coming up. Oh my goodness. Yes. So Ricky's the next interview. And, last week we were talking about the nines and how 2025 is a 9 year. So if you want to hear more about 2025, and of course, if you stick with us, you're going to be hearing all about these cosmic frequencies throughout the year. But in the last episode, we talked about how 2025 is a 9, and the other years in our lifetime, or in my lifetime, that's a 9, and how those years affected me. I really encourage you to look back at these years. If you didn't listen to the episode, go back and listen to the episode, but it'll help you give you a deeper understanding of what could be in store for you in 2025 when you reflect upon the previous years that also added up to a 9, and you find the thread between those years and perhaps what is going to be occurring for you this year. But it's a very exciting year. I'm very excited about 2025. And I'm really going to share that excitement with you, not only in this episode, but in the episodes to come. But first, before we get into Mercury in Capricorn, the North Node in Pisces, Mars, retrograde in Cancer, and the theme of responsible thoughts, I want to talk about Megan Fox. Megan Fox entered my field about a week and a half ago. Gabrielle and I were, it was one night, and we're like, hey, let's watch a movie. What's on Netflix? Gabriella said, oh, I would watch this with you. Okay, what is it? Subservience. Subservience, which is a film with Megan Fox where she plays, it's basically like if it's our reality in the very near future when ChatGPT is manifested into physical form that looks like Megan Fox, where Megan Fox is basically a living, breathing ChatGPT, and she moves in with a man and his 2 kids as his wife is in the hospital waiting for a heart transplant. And so you can imagine where this goes. It's exciting. It's a fun movie. But, as I do with every time I watch a film or TV show, I got to look up, okay, hopefully I can find the date, time, and place of this person's birth. If I can't, then I at least look at, well, where were the planets on the day that they were born? And that will give me some sort of idea. And so, of course, we've got the date, time, and place of Megan Fox's birth. Thank you, Megan Fox, for putting that out there. And the first thing I see when I look at her chart, I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. I told Gabriella, I'm like, she was born with Mars and the ascendant at 19 degrees in Capricorn, and her descendant is at 19 degrees in Cancer. Why did I say, oh my God? Was because Chiron, the wound in the ancient wisdom which is unlocked through healing that wound, is at 19 degrees in Aries. It's been at 19 degrees in Aries since November 11th and is going to remain at 19 degrees in Aries until Valentine's Day, February 14th. So that's November, December, January, February, 4 months at 19 degrees. 4 months at 19 degrees, squaring Megan Fox's face, her body, her personality, her go energy, her self-confidence, her relationships. Now, at the time, I had no idea what was going on with her, but I was like, she must be going through something. And then, as the social media does, my phone must have heard me talking about Megan Fox because she popped up on my Instagram that she and Machine Gun Kelly just broke up, or at least that's been what's reported in the public. She's pregnant with his child. Came out that she found some texts from another woman. He's been cheating on her again, supposedly, allegedly. And so I started to dive into this deep. I'm like, okay, wow, this is something to talk about because she is going through it astrologically and she is going through it in reality. So I started doing some digging. I asked ChatGPT, like, when did Megan Fox announce that she was pregnant? November 11th. The day that Chiron moved to 19 degrees, squaring her ascendant, descendant, and Mars. November 11th, the same day that she announced publicly that she was pregnant with MGK's baby. Whew. Okay. So let's go back because February 12th, 2023 was the day that Megan Fox deleted all of her photos of MGK on her IG account. On this day, February 12th, 2023, the moon was squaring her moon. The sun and Saturn were squaring her Saturn. Mars was conjunct her Chiron. Uranus was conjunct her Mercury, squaring her moon. Venus and Neptune were squaring her Uranus. Jupiter squaring her Neptune. Pluto squaring her North Node. What does all this mean? Okay, well, when the moon squares the moon, whenever the moon squares your moon, your emotions are going to be a little on the fringe. They're going to be a little tense. You might be moody. You might be a little more emotional than you normally are. When the sun and Saturn square your Saturn, you're feeling restricted. You're feeling isolated. You're feeling alone. You're feeling lonely. You're feeling cut off from friends and loved ones. Nobody understands me. I'm isolated. Mars conjunct her Chiron. That is aggressively picking at the wound. It's like picking at the scab and now you're bleeding. Uranus conjunct her Mercury. That is going through a revolution of her mind. Racing thoughts that are outside the box. Well, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to delete all these photos. Uranus squaring her moon, creating that agitation, that uncertainty in your emotional nature, where you're feeling rebellious emotionally. I love him. Well, he's not going to have my love anymore. Screw him. I'm deleting all those photos. Venus and Neptune squaring Uranus. So going through a revolution of her unconscious, of her relationships. Like when Venus and Uranus are squaring each other. I mean, to me, I see that and I'm like, oh, wow, that's a breakup. That's a breakup. So, and obviously, I guess she was going through a breakup on February 12th, 2023. So, and then Pluto squaring her North Node. So Megan Fox was born with the North Node in Aries. She's a 1986er. So all you 86ers out there, not all of you were born with the North Node in Aries, but she's one of the first. Her birthday is May, and that's right. In May was when the North Node moved into Aries. It's in her third house. She needs to be courageous in asking questions, gathering information. She needs to be courageous in being open, not relying on, well, I feel this, so this must be the facts. Like she needs to be aggressive in seeking honesty or authenticity or keeping it real. She needs to think about herself. She needs to ask herself questions like, what do I want? What's important to me? What am I getting out of this relationship with Machine Gun Kelly? What's in it for me? So with Pluto squaring her North Node back in February of 23, when she deleted all of his photos off of her Instagram account, she was going through a hard reality that was shifting her self-confidence or her self-awareness. So now let's jump ahead to December 10th, because December 10th is when their most recent breakup became public. Venus, the goddess of love and beauty, the planet of relationships, was squaring Megan Fox's Pluto, the god of death. So the planet of relationships squaring off with the god of death, a death to her relationship. Uranus had now moved on from her Mercury, where it was in February of 23, and was conjunct her sun. And it's still conjunct her sun. It's been conjunct her sun since the end of October. So she's been going through this revolution of her identity, how she identifies with herself and how she wants to identify in the public frame to the people around her and, with her as a celebrity. So my heart really goes out to Megan Fox and to MGK. I want nothing but the best for them. Peace, love, harmony. And if I can support you, Megan or MGK, contact me for a reading at theweeklytransit.com. I'm happy to be here to help give you some perspective and guidance that will support and bring harmony and peace into your life. Just thinking about the two of them together and how they fit. Last week we got into Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds and the magic of their cosmic connection. Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly, they have a lot of powerful, positive synastry. I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility to think that they couldn't get back together. Or even if they don't, that they won't remain friends moving forward. Maybe they just realize that it's not working out for the two of them and they need to, go their separate ways. But, they're born with this magic aspect between their sun and moon, where Megan Fox was born with the moon, with the sun at 25 degrees in Taurus. MGK was born with the moon at 25 degrees in Pisces. So Megan's sun at 25 degrees in Taurus, Machine Gun's moon at 25 degrees in Pisces. That's an earth-water connection. His moon nurtures her earth gives his water form. This is like one of the most beautiful aspects that you can have in a synastry chart because it indicates emotional compatibility. So even when things go off the rails, let's say, as they have with their relationship and Machine Gun's infidelities, if that is true, then, they can still find their way back together through this emotional compatibility. Now, there is a lot of heat and attraction between the two of them. Her Mars, the planet that rules the physical act of sex, the planet of attraction, the planet that's being squared by the transiting Chiron, which is really creating that sense of insecurity potentially in terms of Megan Fox. She's like, who am I? How come I can't keep this man with me? It's forming a sextile with his Venus. His Venus is at 17 degrees in Pisces. So her planet of sex and his planet of love are making a positive aspect to each other. That's a really, really powerful connection or attraction romantically. I really love to see that in a synastry chart, and they have it. It's amazing. I think of where they are, though. It's like, Machine Gun, his moon and Venus are in Pisces, and Pisces is the fantasy. So he's emotionally fulfilled by the fantasy. His planet of love is in the sign of fantasy. I mean, this movie, Subservience, that Megan Fox is in, she's wonderful in it because she is the fantasy. In the film, it's like the fantasy that goes wrong, of course, but she's the fantasy. You look at her and she's just like, she's so put together. She's a Taurus sun. She's a Capricorn rising. So she's just a very well built with the cheekbones and the body structure. And then she's a Leo moon, which gives her that star quality where like you just have to look at her like, oh my God, who is that? It's like the sun, like you just feel her presence. She comes on your screen and you can't help but notice her there. She is the fantasy. And so Machine Gun has totally bought into the fantasy of Megan Fox, only to realize that, oh, she's actually a living, breathing woman who has highs and lows, ups and downs, and is not always going to be the fantasy. Sometimes she's going to be the nightmare, as we all are. It's not just women, it's men too. Men can be nightmares. So he is emotionally fulfilled by the fantasy. His relationships, he wants to be the fantasy. So it makes sense why he would be stepping out of this relationship, especially also because he's a Gemini rising. So he is, that Gemini frequency, they get bored easily. So when things aren't, when Megan Fox isn't living up to being the fantasy that Machine Gun Kelly wants or desires or is envisioning for him and their relationship, and then he sees the fantasy out there on tour when he's just out in the world and women are flaunting themselves at him, he's like, oh, that's a nice fantasy. I'm going to go talk to that woman now. Maybe she's going to fulfill my fantasy for a while. So it's something for him to really be careful about moving forward. It's also important for them to understand that his North Node is in Aquarius in the 9th house. He was born with the North Node in Aquarius in the 9th house. Aquarius is the sign of independence, and the 9th house is the house of philosophy, which is associated with the 9th sign, which is Sagittarius. That's the sign of freedom. So his soul's purpose is to be independent and free. Now, this is where it gets a bit tricky between the two of them because they're both Tauruses. He's a Taurus sun, she's a Taurus sun. So they want that stability, they want that loyalty, but at the same time, he wants that freedom and independence. And then where it gets really tricky is her Saturn, the planet of restriction, is at 7 degrees in Sagittarius, conjunct with his descendant. The descendant is the beginning of the 7th house, which is the house of marriage, which represents relationships. So he is being restricted by her in his relationship frequency. Her Saturn is conjunct his 7th house descendant line. So he might feel restricted by their relationship. It's really interesting because I like to look at how actors choose their roles. And then when you look at their astrology or the synastry with their charts, with the people that they're in relationship with, in this film, Subservience, she becomes very controlling of her master, let's say, the person who owns her, buys her at the mall, and she's a robot, and he is her user. I forget the term, maybe master, the user, whatever the term they use in the film, but she becomes very possessive of him and wanting to control him. And that is a part of Megan Fox's personality as a Capricorn rising. Mars conjunct the ascendant in Capricorn. She can be not only controlling, but aggressively controlling. And then you put that into her relationship with MGK and her Saturn, the planet that rules Capricorn, her ascendant, her Mars, is conjunct his descendant, which is Sagittarius, the sign of freedom. So can it work, their relationship? Yes, of course. It all depends on how they're working with the energy. But I would think that she needs to be maybe more aggressive in thinking about herself and what she's interested in. And she needs to be okay with him having his freedom and independence in his life, whatever that means. Whatever the two of them can agree upon. It's up to them. So I hope this has helped give you some insight into the language of astrology and how it's reflected in the reality or the reality of pop culture. One final tidbit about pop culture, separate from Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly. I saw that Kylie Kelce, Jason Kelce's wife, the sister-in-law of Travis Kelce, who's the boyfriend, of course, as we all know, of Taylor Swift. And the power of Taylor Swift with Kylie Kelce's recently debuted podcast, Not Gonna Lie, debuting at number 1. Her new podcast, Not Gonna Lie, debuted at number 1. That's the power of Taylor Swift. No offense to Kylie Kelce. I'm sure she's amazing. I don't know a lot about her, but I had to look up. I'm like, not gonna lie. Okay, let's look up her astrology. Of course, we don't have her time of birth, but we do know that she was born March 23rd, 1992, when the sun was in Aries, the sign of authenticity, not gonna lie. And the moon was in Sagittarius, the sign of honesty. So clearly, Kylie Kelce is not gonna lie. Her identity is in the sign of authenticity, and her emotions are in the sign of honesty. So she's emotionally fulfilled by being honest, and she identifies with just being herself. I think it's an interesting fun fact that her moon reflects Taylor Swift's sun in Sagittarius. So those Kelce brothers really like their fiery women. Gotta love it. Okay, so let's get to the week. The week of January 6th to the 12th. And we begin with Mars retrograde into Cancer. Mars is going to be retrograding into Cancer all the way until February 23rd. It's going to retrograde back to 17 degrees in Cancer. And then it's going to move forward and it will transit out of Cancer on April 17th. So Mars is transiting through Cancer from January 6th to April 17th from degrees 29 to 17. So it's interesting. This is going to hit for Megan Fox, that 19 degree point opposing her Mars, opposing her ascendant, conjunct her descendant. That's going to be happening in February. So it will be interesting to see what occurs there, especially as it's going to be squaring, for all of us, it's going to be squaring Chiron at 19 degrees in Aries, right around Valentine's Day. Whoa, what a fun Valentine's Day it's looking out to be. So, this is driving us to face our past. Like if you're someone like Megan Fox, it's like, okay, how do I end up in this relationship? This is something we should all be looking at. We need to be looking at our present reality and how our present reality is predicated upon our past. How has the past influenced our present? Mars retrograde and Mars retrograde in Cancer, Mars in Cancer, all of that is giving us the courage to face our past, to delve into our past. And when I say our past, I'm not just talking about our own personal past, our upbringing, our childhood, but also our ancestry and the history of life on Earth, the history of mankind. How did we get to this point? How did we become who we are in the world right now? Because I am just not a product of my own past. I'm a product of my ancestors, and I'm a product of every single living, breathing creature that's ever walked the earth. So what does that mean? What does that mean for me? What does exist in my past that maybe I'm hiding from, maybe I'm avoiding, maybe I'm afraid to go there? Now might be the time to do so. How can I be more courageous in learning about my history? Now, this is part of the work that you can be doing with regards to the 9 years. Looking back at all those years that were a 9. 1962, 1971, 1980, 1989, 1998, 2007, 2016. What was occurring for you in those years? What was occurring for you in those years? Is there a thread that connects those years together? What ended in those years? Because 9 is the final degree, the final digit, the final single digit. 9 is the final single digit. So it represents endings. What ended for you in those years? This is part of looking at your past. The past is there to help inform you of your present so that you aren't making the same choices that you've made in the past that led to your suffering. Of course, we can't avoid all suffering, but if we learn our lessons from the past, whether that be my own personal lesson or the lesson of my ancestors or the lessons of mankind, then I can make a better decision right now in my present reality. Mars transited through Cancer from September 4th to November 3rd, last year, 2024. Before that, it transited through Cancer from March 25th to May 20th, 2023, April 23rd to June 11th, 2021, and May 15th to July 1st, 2019. Think back to the past, to those dates, for clues on what could be in store for you as you move forward with this current transit of Mars retrograde and then direct in Cancer. The same day, on January 6th, is when, check my notes here. Yeah, January 6th at 3:56 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the Sun in Capricorn will be squaring the Moon in Aries. So Monday looks to be a moon day, a moody day. Monday's named for the moon, so it's appropriate. The emotions should be coming out on Monday, January 6th. You look up in the sky, you see that half moon, the tension between the light and the shadow. Moon in Aries, bringing that impulsivity to your emotions, that urge to express yourself authentically, not going to lie, just going to show you how it is. Where the Sun in Capricorn brings that restrictive quality. Your impulsivity may end up tearing down everything that you've built. So how can you find balance between the tension that exists between that impulsivity and that need to plan? Part of it could be honing into that impulse, but then harnessing that energy to be more constructive in your forward motion, rather than tearing everything down because you feel uncomfortable for a moment. Because if you tear everything down in one moment of discomfort, it may perpetuate the discomfort of the suffering, because now you're going to have to rebuild everything from the start. So feel that energy, that frequency of pain, of suffering, of agitation, of anger. Feel it, acknowledge it, but then harness it in a direction of more productivity. Remember, the moon moves quickly, so whatever tension you're feeling on Monday will pass. It will pass. And remember, I'm not just saying this to you. I'm saying this to myself too. I got to remind myself, don't be impulsive, Scott. Don't be impulsive. The third transit, Mercury in Sagittarius squares Neptune in Pisces at 27 degrees. This is from Saturday to Tuesday, January 4th to the 7th, with the exact square on Monday, January 6th. So Monday looks to be a doozy, with the Sun squaring the Moon, Mars retrograde into the moody Cancer sign, ruled by the moon. Cancer is cardinal, water, ruled by the moon. It's the moody sign. So the god of war is transiting back retrograde into the moody emotional sign of Cancer, while the moody emotional moon in the fiery sign ruled by Mars, the god of war, transits through Aries and squares off with the sun, the planet of vitality, in the sign where Mars, the god of war, is exalted, Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, the planet of restriction and responsibility. As that's happening, Mercury, the messenger of the gods, guide of souls to the underworld, the planet of consciousness, communication, coordination, the god of merchants and thieves, transits through the mutable fire sign, the sign of truth and honesty, Sagittarius, and squares off with Neptune, the god of fresh water and the sea, the planet of illusion, deception, compassion, intuition, in the mutable water signs, symbolized by the fish and ruled by Neptune, Pisces. So we might be flying blind on Monday. We might be lost in the clouds. We might not be able to see what it is we think we're really looking at. Monday's going to be a real important day for patience, because we might feel that impulse of anger, and that impulse of anger might be directed at something that isn't even there. It's a mirage. We think it's there. We're screaming at a shadow. It's like you wake up in the middle of the night and you think you see something in the corner, so you take the baseball bat next to your bed and you start smashing where you think it is in the corner, and then you turn on the light and you realize nothing was there. Instead, now you just have a wall with a bunch of holes in it because you thought you were attacking something that was there that wasn't there, and now you've damaged your bedroom. Great. Now I've created more problems for myself. Okay. So we've got to sit with the discomfort on Monday. We've got to sit with the discomfort, and we've got to go within ourselves and say, why do I feel so much discomfort here? Why am I so agitated? Show me whatever it was in my past that planted the seed of despair, deceit, anger, fear. Where was this seed planted within me? Oh, yes, that's right. It was that experience that I had when I was 4 years old, when I was 7 years old. Okay, who was a part of that experience? Oh, it was my mother. It was my father. Okay, well, let's go back further. Show me what happened with them. Oh, that's right. My dad, he was abused by his father. Yeah, okay. And so on and so forth, down the line. Oh, they came from a genocide where their family members were murdered. Oh. And so that trickled down to me. That's why I have this fear. Okay. So it's about having the courage to go into those deep, dark places that we avoid because we just want to be living our Instagram best lives. And that's fine. But when you're with yourself, you got to be in reality. And so when you're feeling that rage, that anger, go within. Where does this come from? Where does it stem from? And that's where the opportunity comes for the tension that we're feeling on Monday. And there's going to be some tension early in the week. Throughout the week, there is underlining tension because All week, Monday to Friday, January 6th to January 10th, the sun transiting through Capricorn is squaring Chiron in Aries. So the sun, the planet of light, life, and vitality, transiting through the cardinal earth sign, symbolized by the goat, squaring off with the wound and the ancient wisdom which is unlocked through healing that wound, in the cardinal fire sign, symbolized by the ram. So this is accentuated by the squaring of the sun and moon early in the week, when the sun in Capricorn is squaring the moon in Aries, right in that same area, because the sun squares the moon at 16 degrees. Aries, or Chiron, is at 19 degrees in Aries. So by the time we get to Wednesday, the sun is squaring Chiron exactly. And so what does this mean? Well, we're looking ahead to the year and we're thinking about our goals and ambitions, what we want to achieve. Maybe at this point we're feeling like we're at the bottom of Mount Everest. And it's like, how am I ever going to get to the top of this mountain? How is that even possible? There may be some real self-doubt in terms of your relationship to authority, your relationship to yourself as the authority. You may feel like you're really kind of under the thumb of the authority. I feel that way personally. I got pulled over last night by a police officer because I was holding my phone. And I was like, are you kidding me? I wasn't even looking at my phone. I was holding my phone, but I got pulled over because I was holding my phone. I'm like, I didn't say this to the police officer because I was, I'm a deer in headlights when I get pulled over. But afterwards, I'm like, I could be eating in the car. I could be smoking a cigarette in the car. I could be a one-armed person driving a car, and that would be okay. But holding my phone means that I'm in trouble. So, I was like, wow, this is, this week is come early with the sun squaring Chiron. And really like some self-doubt. I'm like, wow, I feel really small. So really be mindful of that this week. Are you feeling small? Are you feeling unaccomplished? Are you feeling a long way from your goals? Are you feeling like you are under the thumb of somebody or something, a system, a society? We're being called to face our fears and insecurities in answering these questions. If you're feeling insecure about achieving your goals, if you're feeling insecure in the face of authority, if you're feeling insecure about the work that you're doing, that's part of the reckoning. Coming to terms with these fears and insecurities. In order to come to terms with them and overcome them, we have to face them. We have to acknowledge them. And that's just an underlying frequency for the entire week that peaks on Wednesday, which is also the day that Mercury transits into Capricorn. Responsibility for your mind, for your thoughts. Are you taking responsibility for your thoughts? My thoughts are rooted in fear. Where does this stem from? Why is my mind overgrown with thoughts of fear? Who planted these seeds? Where do they stem from? How can I rip them out by the root? Well, I need to take responsibility for them in the first place. They're in my mind. I'm the one that's thinking them. Yes, they might have been planted there by somebody else. It's like you plant a seed and then you walk away. and the plant grows and has a whole life there. That's like your mind. Somebody planted a seed in your mind, an idea, and now you've allowed other people in your life that water that seed. The only way that it's going to be uprooted is through you. That's your responsibility. That's Mercury in Capricorn, the planet of the mind in the sign of responsibility. So when Mercury transits through Capricorn from January 8th to the 27th, set your intentions to take control of your mind. I'm going to be the master of my own mind. I control my thoughts. What can you do to be the master of your own mind? Are you taking responsibility for your thoughts? The first step to taking responsibility for your thoughts is to acknowledge that you have thoughts, to acknowledge what those thoughts are, to do the work required to delve into the origin story of those thoughts. Where did they come from? Who put them there? Who put those thoughts in their head that brought them to my head? Let's go back. Let's go back in time. Let's figure it out. The last time Mercury transited through Capricorn was January 13th to February 4th, 2024. The time before that was December 6th, 2022 to February 11th, 2023. That was an extended retrograde period. And the time before that was December 13th, 2021 to January 2nd, 2022. Think back to those dates for clues on what could be in store for you this time around as Mercury transits Capricorn, January 8th to the 27th. If you were born with key astrological points or planets in Aries or Libra, look out, you're going to be pushed mentally. If Mercury's squaring your sun, it might feel like your own personal Mercury retrograde. If Mercury's squaring your Saturn, you may feel restricted in your mind. If Mercury's squaring your Venus, you may be going through some difficult conversations in your relationships. Now, right as Mercury transits into Capricorn, it immediately forms a square aspect to the North Node in Aries. The North Node is the soul's purpose, the karmic pathway of the soul. So this is creating tension between your thoughts, your goals, your ambitions, your thoughts regarding your goals, thoughts, and ambitions, and who you really are. You may realize that my thoughts don't represent my personality. The way that I present myself is, hey, everything's great. I'm happy. Life is awesome. In my thoughts, I'm like, I hate life. I hate everything about what's going on in my life right now. I'm not going to tell these people about it. Oh, no way. Not doing that. Well, it's coming to a reckoning right now where you can't hide. You can't hide your thoughts. You can't hide your thoughts. You have to be responsible for your thoughts. You have to recognize that my thoughts are who I am. And my thoughts are showing that I'm not a very confident person. I'm insecure. I'm afraid. Acknowledge that. It's okay. It's okay to say that I'm afraid. It's okay to say that I don't know. It's okay to say I have a lot to learn here. That's what this Mercury squaring the North Node is about, which is occurring from January 8th to the 9th. That's Wednesday, Thursday, with the exact square occurring the same day that Mercury transits into Capricorn. Wednesday, January 8th. Wednesday, Woden's Day. Woden is the Old Norse god, which is associated with the Roman god Mercury. Miércoles, Mercurio. Wednesday is Mercury's day. And it's Mercury's day this week because our mind is going to be bent. We're going to be challenged. We're going to have to face the conflict that exists within our minds and how it's reflecting in our personality. Don't run from it. Don't hide from it. Acknowledge it. Face the conflict. Saturday, January 11th, is when the North Node retrogrades back into Pisces, the soul's purpose. So the final aspect for the North Node is squaring Mercury, the planet of the mind, before the North Node transits back into Pisces, which is the sign of the unconscious. Wow! So we have this hard conscious reckoning of our mind and our personality and needing to take responsibility for our thoughts, just as the soul's purpose transits back, just before the soul's purpose transits back into the sign of the unconscious, which is urging us to face our fears and insecurities that exist within our psyche. The guilt, the shame, the regret, the blame. This is for the next 18 months until July 26, 2026. The North Node is transiting back through Pisces. Are you ready to get deep with yourself? Are you ready to be triggered even more by the people around you? Because you're going to be feeling a stronger sense of empathy to those around you. And that empathy is going to awaken the guilt, the shame, the regret, the blame. I should have been a better friend. I should have been a better lover, a better partner. I shouldn't have said this. I should have done that instead. I'm a horrible person. I hurt that person's feelings. I hate everything. I hate everyone. I hate myself. I'm just going to drink now. I'm going to go dive into a computer screen or a TV screen or a phone screen or any screen. I'm going to eat some edibles. I'm just going to do some stuff to check out so I don't have to pay attention to this, but you can't escape it forever. You can't escape it forever. So at some point over this next year and a half, especially in this next year, as Neptune, the planetary ruler of Pisces, completes its transit through Pisces before it retrogrades back into Pisces after it spends a bit of time in Aries, that's when we all push our collective dumpster of psychological baggage into the street and light it on fire. Hey everyone, look at my life. It's a hot mess. I'm a disaster zone. That's me. Hi. Haha. In order to avoid that, you need to stop avoiding everything that you are wanting to avoid through your escapism, in whatever means that is. So when you're escaping, what are you escaping from? Acknowledge that first. Rather than mindlessly escaping, acknowledge what you're trying to escape first. And then escape, come back. And then next time, before you escape, acknowledge it again, and maybe now you do something about what you acknowledged. Oh, I need to talk to this person about this. This is an issue that I have with this person. I don't want to hurt their feelings. This conversation might hurt their feelings. It might make things uncomfortable. Okay, but I can't escape forever. This is a rock in my shoe. And now that it's no longer just buried in my unconscious, it's in my conscious, I can't help but notice it. So I have to do something about it. That's what we're being called to do. Something. But it begins with the acknowledgement, and then you follow that acknowledgement with the compassion for yourself. I'm suffering right now. I feel guilty. I feel shameful. I'm regretting this. I'm blaming myself. I'm blaming them. Take a step back. I'm here on planet Earth, having this human experience. I'm a soul in physical form. I've come here because the only way for me to learn the lessons that I needed to learn as a soul, I needed to come to this place, Earth. I needed to materialize into a physical body. And it's through that physical material experience that I am learning about pain and suffering in a way that I couldn't have understood it as a soul just floating around in the ether. Because of that, I'm here to experience pain and suffering so that I can love myself through it all. And once I have learned to love myself through the guilt, through the shame, through the regret, through the blame, and I've learned to have empathy and love for those that are with me in this experience, even if this person caused me suffering and pain, I can now pull back and as I'm in this safe place and say, I acknowledge them for their role in my life. Let's just begin there. I acknowledge them for their role in my life. Maybe it's too soon to say that I love them and I'm grateful for them and their role in my life because the pain and suffering is too fresh. But the more that you can get to that point, the more that by the time we get to the end of this transit of the North Node in Pisces, by the time we get to July 26, 2026, by then, hopefully, we are no longer living in the nightmare. And we are now living in that Megan Fox fantasy. That Machine Gun Kelly Megan Fox fantasy, not the nightmare, where it's like, I deserve to have my dreams come true. I am worthy of my dreams coming true. I've forgiven myself for the guilt, the shame, the regret, the blame. I've recognized that I had those experiences because I needed to learn. I've learned and now I've grown from them. I still love myself. And now I deserve everything that I can imagine and beyond. Because I'm living from that place of love for myself. Now let's look back. As we take that Mars retrograde through Cancer, let's look back at the past. If any of you are old enough to remember these dates, I send so much love and gratitude to you. Because I went back 90 years. December 27th to 1931, June 24th to 1933. The North Node transited through Pisces. July 26th, 1950 to March 28th, 1952, the North Node transited through Pisces. April 18th, 1969 to November 1st, 1970, the North Node transited through Pisces. December 1st, 1987 to May 22nd, 1989, the North Node transited through Pisces. June 22nd, 2006 to December 17th, 2007, the North Node transited through Pisces. So those were the last 5 times that the North Node has transited through Pisces. Now, if you were born during those dates, we're looking at you right now, because you are the ones that are here to lead the collective, humanity, mankind, into this age of compassion and empathy, self-love. You are the ones that were born with the South Node in Virgo. So as the North Node transits through Pisces, the South Node is in Virgo, which means that we collectively, during this North Node transit through Pisces, as the South Node transits through Virgo, we collectively need to release that need for control. We need to release that nitpicking, that overly critical, analytical, just burrowing in on the nuances, perfectionism. No. Let it go. Especially if you were born in between the dates that I just gave, because that's your soul's purpose. Your soul's purpose is to release that overly critical, analytical, needing to control everything. Everything has to be a certain way. Perfectionism. It's got to go. We got to take our hands off the wheel and say, I'm going to let God drive for a minute. For the collective, it's for the next year and a half. For those that were born during the dates that I just gave, it's for your lifetime. That's why I'm looking at you to lead the collective. But for the rest of us, we can help those that were born with the North Node in Pisces, South Node in Virgo, by helping them. If we collectively take our hands off the wheel and say, you know what, this next year and a half is going to be all about faith. The theme the next year and a half is about faith. Taking responsibility for your thoughts. If your thoughts are negative, if your thoughts are doom and gloom, if your thoughts are rooted in fear, then you have no faith. And Pisces is all about faith. Pisces is the final sign. It's like, I've seen it all. I know how it works out. It's like, I really want to commend Brian Austin Green, Megan Fox's ex-husband or ex-partner, father of, they share children together. And, you know, he said something that was, I really appreciated. You know, TMZ cornered him. They stalked him in the parking lot of a Starbucks. Like, hey, did you hear? Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly broke up. He's like, oh, okay. Well, I didn't hear, but, you know, it's too bad what happened. She's like, oh, he's cheating on her again. And he's just like, oh my God, what is he, like 30 something? Like, she's pregnant. Like, grow up, bro. Like, come on, what's going on? And they're like, well, what do you want the outcome to be? He's like, I just wish the best for them. You know, I wish the best for them. I wish the best for our kids. Well, what would that be? They asked him. He's like, time will tell. But I trust that whatever time tells is going to be for the best. You know, that's where I'm putting my energy, my frequency. He didn't say it exactly like that, but that's the gist of what I got from him. And that, you know, he was born with Pluto in the 12th house. So he has maybe this unshakable faith in just knowing this powerful will within his unconscious that says, you know what, it might not feel good right now, but I'm just going to trust that it's all going to work out for the best. And that's what we need to do collectively over the next year and a half, is just say, like, I have faith that whatever's happening right now, even if it doesn't feel like it's working in my favor, that it's all going to work out for the best. That there's going to be a time where I look back at this moment and I'm going to say, thank God. It's like the great Ricky King, who is coming on the show in a couple days. One of her sayings that I love is, the universe is not doing this to me, it's doing it for me. And that everything is happening in my highest good. That this is not happening to me, this is happening for me. That is faith. And Ricky was born with the North Node in Sagittarius. That's another sign that is associated with faith. It's both Pisces and Sagittarius are ruled by Jupiter. When you look at the symbol of Jupiter, it's a cross of matter with a crescent of receptivity pointed out. It looks like if you were on the ledge and you jumped and there was like a trail from you jumping off the edge and you don't know what you're going to jump into, but you have faith that you're going to land someplace amazing. You know, this is why Kylie Kelce can have a podcast that says, not going to lie. Because she has faith that if I tell the truth, all's going to be good. It's just about truth and authenticity. So what can you do to harness that faith within you? Where is faith lacking within you? Do you have the faith to release that monkey mind, that hamster wheel of constant turning, of trying to figure everything out? It's not helping you. It's not serving you right now. Yeah, take your hands off the wheel and say, as they say, let go and let God. Because the more that you're trying to control things over the next year and a half, the more your faith is going to come to a point of crisis. Because you're going to realize that the more you try to control things, the more things are out of your control. And the more that you control things, you're going to realize that they're out of your control, because you're going to be turning the car right and you're going to be going left and you're going to be crashing into a wall. And you're going to be like, oh my God, now I'm frustrated. I thought if I turned right, I would go right, but now it's taking me left. It doesn't make sense. At that point, you have to take your hands off the wheel. Say, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening. I'm just here on this earth having a human experience that I have no control over. None. Zero. The only thing that I can really kind of control, maybe a little bit, and not even a whole lot, is my attitude and effort. Because sometimes the planets are squaring me and it's just creating all this tension in my life. And it's hard for me to have a good attitude and to give a good effort. So in those moments, on the hard days, I'm going to take it easy and I'm going to say, you know what, out there in the world, God is doing their magic. The universe, the angels, they're all doing their magic. They're opening up doors for me that I didn't even know existed, that are going to send me into the most amazing places that I can't even imagine. And what did you do? How did you get there? Oh, I was in bed all day, just dreaming about a better life. And I saw myself in a better life that I couldn't see that clearly, but it just felt better. I felt in love. I felt happy. Dream. Show yourself compassion. Forgive yourself. Love yourself. The final transit of the week. Just encouraging this even more is Mars, the planet of courage, transiting retrograde through Cancer, forming a trine, a supportive water aspect with Neptune in Pisces. This is January 7th to the 15th with the exact trine occurring on Sunday, January 12th. Think about this. The week we said is going to start bumpy. Tension, pain, suffering, agitation, aggression, conflict. But by the end of the week with Mars forming a trine to Neptune, oh, it all makes sense now. Oh, wow. Now I see the big picture. I needed to reconcile the pain and suffering of my past, of my ancestry, of the whole hell of human existence. I needed to show compassion to myself and others, empathy to others, forgiveness for the past, and courageously looking at the past, and in doing so, I'm in a totally different place than I was earlier in the week. I see the big picture. That's Jupiter, the planetary ruler of Pisces, along with Neptune. The vastness of the ocean. Wow, okay, now I see it. I see it. It all makes sense. And I have faith moving forward. Sunday could be a powerful manifestation day. Whether you're a specific or non-specific manifester, take a moment to tap into your magic, to have a conversation with God or whatever higher power you believe in, the universe, spirit guides, angels, whoever it may be. Let them know. Remind them who you are. They don't need to be reminded, but reintroduce yourself. They know who you are. Let them know that you know they're there. You feel them. You feel them when you feel that tingling sensation. That your hair is standing up, the goosebumps. You hear them. You feel them. Acknowledge them. Thank them. Let them know that you know that you're just here having this human experience. Your soul is here in the material world. You know that there's so much else out there that is beyond your comprehension, beyond your awareness, that is pulling the puppet strings of this planet, of this realm, of this earth, that you can't fully comprehend or understand, but you know that they do. And you know that they're here to support you. Help me get through the weak moments. Help me get through the moments where I'm struggling, where I'm suffering. Help me see a better way. Help me cultivate my faith. You know, faith comes in the darkest moments. You know, when I think of faith, I can't help but think of the story of Job in the Bible. It doesn't matter if you're religious or not. I'm not religious, but I grew up going to church my whole life. And so I know these stories from the Bible, and they are so inspiring. The story of Job, the man who had everything: wealth, family, beautiful home, and he loved God. Satan came to God and said, yeah, okay. So this Job guy, he's got all this faith in God, right? And you, right? Huh, yeah, of course, of course he has faith in you. He's got the great home. He's successful. He's got a great family. Yeah, I'd have faith in you too. If you gave me everything. God said, no. Job's not about that. He has faith in me no matter what I give him or what I don't give him, what I take away from him. Oh, really? Okay. I bet that if you took all that away, Job would curse you. He wouldn't have faith in you anymore. God's like, okay, bet's on. Family dies. Business lost. Home gone. Everything taken from Job. Everything. And he was wary. What happened? What did I do wrong? Why? Why, God, have you forsaken me? Why did you take everything that I loved and I had away from me? I had faith in you. And now I'm being punished. But eventually he realized that, no, God is always there with him. It's like that poster, that meme before memes is a poster you'd see in all the churches with 2 sets of footprints and then just 1 set of footprints. And it's like, God, that was when you abandoned me. You abandoned me then. Job said, God, you've abandoned me. No. That single set of footprints is when I was carrying you. That's when I was carrying you. And so when those dark moments come during this year or any time in the future, that is the time where faith is truly cultivated. And when Job cultivated his faith, again, in the dark moments, and said, I love you, God, no matter what. Satan lost his bet, and Job's life was restored. Wealth, home, family. Because he had faith through it all. Not just in the highs, but in the lows. I hope that this episode has given you some faith in yourself, in your future, and for the week ahead. And I'll look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you for listening to the weekly transit. If you're curious to learn how these transits or any other transits may be affecting you, or if you're interested in learning more about your astrological code, contact me for a reading at theweeklytransit.com. This episode was produced by me, Scott Tajarian. Music written by Ben Leinbach from Listen Deep by Amber Herzog Lyman. Wishing you all the best as you ride the planetary waves.